What do you do when your daughter is rushed into surgery, and the surgeon tells you to take your grandchildren and leave the city? How can a calm man stay steady when an envelope lands in his hands and it points straight at his own son-in-law? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Greg Mallory. I am 58 years old. I run a small bookkeeping business from home. I am not loud. I do not take up space in a room. People often think that means I do not notice things. They are wrong. I notice everything. I just do not react the way they expect. That morning started like any other weekday. I was sorting receipts at my desk. My phone rang. A nurse from the local hospital told me my daughter, Lena, had been brought in and taken for an urgent procedure. She did not give details. She only said I should come right away. I asked if Lena was awake. The nurse said she could not say much over the phone. I grabbed my keys and drove too fast, but I kept my face calm. I kept both hands steady on the wheel. I told myself to focus on steps. Park. Enter. Find her. Ask the right questions. I have done hard things in life by breaking them into small parts. Panic does not help. Planning helps. When I reached the hospital, the parking lot was full. The air smelled like wet asphalt and coffee from the kiosk near the entrance. Inside, the emergency entrance was bright and cold. The floor shined like a mirror. People moved fast with clipboards and rolling carts. I walked up to the desk and said my daughter was Lena Mallory. I asked where she was. The clerk asked who I was. I told her I was her father. The clerk glanced at her screen and said the primary contact was already listed. She said the spouse had checked in and completed the paperwork. I asked if I could still see her. The clerk said I would need to wait. A few minutes later, I saw him. My son-in-law, Owen Price, stood near the desk with his phone to his ear. His jacket looked expensive. His hair was neat. He always looked like he had time, even when he did not. He ended his call, turned, and saw me. His eyes went over me the way people look at an old chair they do not want in the living room. He came close enough for people to hear, but not close enough to be warm. He told me I did not need to be in the middle of this. He said he had everything handled. He said the doctors were already talking to him. He said I should go home and wait for updates like everyone else. I told him I was not there to fight. I told him I was there because Lena was my child. I said I wanted to know what was happening. Owen gave a tight smile. He said emotions make people say silly things. He said he needed calm adults right now. That line landed in my chest. It was not loud, it was not dramatic. It was the kind of disrespect that wears a suit. It tells you are small while pretending to be polite. I nodded and said I understood. I asked again where my daughter was. Owen pointed toward the waiting area and said I could sit like the rest of the family. The way he said family made it sound like a club I did not belong to. I walked to the waiting room and sat down. The chairs were stiff and too close together. A television played a talk show with the sound low. The air was dry and smelled faintly of disinfectant. Owen's mother, Nora, was there too. She wore a pearl necklace and a sharp expression. She looked at me and gave a little nod that felt like a warning. 2 other people sat with her, friends of Owen I had seen at holiday dinners. They kept their voices soft, but their eyes were loud. Nora told me Lena had been in pain for days. She said Lena had been hiding it because she did not want to worry anyone. She said Owen had noticed right away because he was attentive. She said he had carried Lena to the car and got her to the hospital. She said he was the reason Lena was being treated quickly. I listened. I did not argue. I knew Lena. I knew she often stayed quiet when she was struggling. That was not new. But something else bothered me. Nora spoke like she was giving a speech. She used words like responsible and stable. She looked around the room as if she wanted witnesses. I asked if anyone had told them what the procedure was. Nora said the doctor had explained it to Owen. She said Owen would decide what information was shared because he was the husband. She said it with a small smile, like a lesson. Across the room, I saw a young staff member walk toward Owen. The staff member spoke to him in a respectful tone. Owen nodded and touched his chest as if he was grateful. He looked like a man playing a role in front of an audience. When the staff member left, Owen glanced at me again. His face changed fast. The smile dropped. His eyes hardened. He walked over. He told me the staff did not need extra stress from confused relatives. He told me not to ask questions at the desk. He said if I needed something, I should ask him. He said the hospital was not a place for drama. He said Lena needed peace, not old family issues. I kept my voice low. I told him I would not cause trouble. I told him I would ask what any parent would ask. I told him I was going to wait quietly, but I would not disappear. Owen leaned in slightly and told me Lena had her own life now. He said she was not a little girl anymore. He said I should accept my place. I did accept something in that moment, but not what he meant. I accepted that Owen had been moving pieces for a long time. I accepted that he felt safe doing it here, in a public place with people watching. I accepted that he believed I would swallow anything to keep the room calm. A little later, my granddaughter Mia came to me. She is 7. Her hair was messy from sleeping in the car. Her eyes were wide and tired. She asked why her dad was upset with me. She asked if I had done something wrong. Her small voice cut through all the adult noise. I told her she had done nothing wrong, and I had done nothing wrong. I told her sometimes grown-ups get scared and they try to control things. I told her her job was to stay close to me and drink water and breathe slow. She held my hand. Her brother Noah leaned against my leg and fell asleep again. Time moved in a strange way. Every few minutes a door opened. A staff member called a name. People stood up and sat down again. Owen took calls near the vending machines. Nora kept watching me like she expected me to stand and shout. I did not give her that. At one point, a nurse walked into the waiting room and said Lena's procedure was in progress. She did not give more than that. Owen stood right away. He approached the nurse like he owned the floor. He asked questions in a confident voice. The nurse answered him. Then she looked at me and nodded once, quickly, as if she wanted to acknowledge I existed. Owen noticed that nod. His jaw tightened. After the nurse left, he told me I should stop trying to pull staff into my side. He said the hospital had rules. He said he would not allow me to interfere. I told him no one was taking sides. I told him I was just waiting. Then something changed. A man in scrubs came into the waiting area. His posture was controlled, but his face was tense. He looked around the room, and his eyes stopped on me. He did not go to Owen first. That detail mattered. He approached and asked if I was Lena's father. I told him I was. He introduced himself as Dr. Samir Patel. He said he was part of the team working on Lena. He said Lena was stable in the moment, but the situation was serious. He said he needed a quick private word with me. Owen stepped forward and asked why the doctor was talking to me. He said he was the spouse. He said he should be included. Dr. Patel told Owen he would speak with him soon. He said he needed to speak with me first. His tone was firm. It was the first time that day I heard someone place a boundary around Owen. Dr. Patel led me into a corridor away from the waiting room. The hallway lights were harsh. The air felt cooler there. We stopped near a closed door with a small sign. Dr. Patel looked both directions, like he was making sure no one was close enough to hear. He told me there were things he could not share freely. He told me he had to follow policy. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. He told me I needed to take my grandchildren and leave the city immediately. He said it in a low, serious voice, like a warning between two adults who understand risk. I asked him why. I asked if Lena was in danger. He told me Lena was being treated, but other factors were involved. He said I needed to focus on the children. He said I needed to think like a protector, not like someone waiting for permission. Then he handed me a plain envelope. It looked like regular office mail. It was sealed. My name was written on it in neat handwriting. Dr. Patel told me he should not be giving it to me, but he could not ignore what he had seen. He told me my son-in-law had done something terrible. My hands did not shake, but my skin went cold. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside were a few pages and a small printed item. I did not read every word right there. I only saw enough to understand the direction of it. My vision narrowed, my mouth went dry. I felt the blood leave my face. Dr. Patel watched me closely. He told me to keep my expression neutral. He told me Owen was skilled at shaping stories. He told me Owen would try to make me look unstable. He told me to say as little as possible until I was safe and prepared. I asked Dr. Patel what he expected me to do. He told me to remove the children from the pressure and noise. He told me to keep them with me. He told me to go somewhere quiet. He told me to make careful calls to the right people. He did not tell me which people, and I understood why. He kept his words simple. He kept them safe. I nodded. I thanked him. I put the envelope inside my jacket, flat against my chest. I walked back toward the waiting room with slow steps. The lights felt brighter than before. The sounds felt louder. My mind felt sharper. When I reached the waiting room, Owen looked at me and tried to read my face. Nora watched too. I kept my expression calm. I sat down beside Mia and Noah. I took a deep breath and told Mia we were going to take a short drive for a break. I told her mom was getting help and we would be steady. Owen walked over and asked where I had been. He said the doctor should not be pulling me aside. He said I was confusing the situation. He asked what the doctor said. I looked at him and told him I had been given instructions to help the children stay calm. I told him I was going to follow them. Owen's smile appeared again, quick and thin. He told me I was overreacting. He told me the children should stay with their father. He said I should not make independent choices. He said I needed to respect the family structure. I stood up slowly. I lifted Noah gently. I took Mia's hand. I told Owen I understood his feelings, but I would not argue in the hospital. I told him I was leaving with the children for a short time. I told him he could contact me when he had official updates about Lena. Owen stepped closer, like he was going to block my path. Nora whispered something to him. Owen paused. He looked around the waiting room and noticed other people watching. He adjusted his posture. He told me to do whatever I wanted, but he said I would regret making it harder. I did not answer that. I walked out with the kids. The hospital doors opened and the cold air hit my face. I guided them to my car. I buckled them in carefully. I sat in the driver's seat for a moment without starting the engine. I placed my hand over the envelope inside my jacket. I did not open it again. I did not let myself spiral. I simply accepted a new reality. Something was wrong, and it was not a misunderstanding. It was not a mood. It was a pattern with teeth. I started the car and pulled out of the parking lot. Mia asked if we were going home. I told her we were going somewhere quiet first. I told her we would get food and rest. I told her we were going to keep things simple. As I drove, I kept my eyes on the road and my mind on the next step. I did not need rage. I did not need a scene. I needed a plan that would hold under bright lights and strict rules. And for the first time that day, I felt something steady under the fear. Clarity. I drove to the edge of town with Mia and Noah in the back seat. I kept the radio off. The quiet felt safer. Mia watched my face in the rear mirror like she was checking if I was going to fall apart. I kept my voice steady and told her we were taking a short break. I said her mom was getting help and the best thing we could do was stay calm. I stopped at a small place near the highway and bought food that was simple and warm. Noah woke up long enough to eat a few bites and then leaned against his sister again. Mia asked if her dad was coming. I told her dad was busy at the hospital and I would talk with him later. I did not say more. I did not want to put adult fear into a child's hands. After that, I checked us into a plain hotel. The lobby smelled like carpet cleaner and sweet coffee. The clerk did not ask questions. That was a relief. I carried Noah up the stairs and opened the door with one hand. The room had 2 beds and heavy curtains. I turned on one lamp and left the rest of the lights off. I wanted soft light. I wanted the kids to feel like this was a pause, not a crisis. I gave Mia a quick bath and found clean shirts from the bag I kept in my trunk. I had started keeping that bag years ago, when Lena became a mother and life got unpredictable. I tucked Noah in first. Then Mia climbed into the other bed. She asked if her mom would be okay. I told her the doctors were helping her, and I was going to make sure Mia and Noah were safe. She held my hand until her eyes got heavy. When she finally let go, I sat in the chair by the window and listened to their breathing. Only then did I take the envelope out. I laid it on the small desk like it was something fragile. I did not spread the pages out. I did not read every line. I only looked long enough to confirm the same names and the same dates were there. I saw enough to understand that this was not gossip or a family argument. It was the kind of thing that turns into meetings and forms and official steps. My stomach tightened again, but my mind stayed clear. I have spent most of my life around paperwork. Not exciting paperwork, but real paperwork. The kind that decides who has access, who has authority, who can move money, who gets to make choices when someone is not able to speak. I worked as a compliance auditor for years before I started my bookkeeping business. That job trained me to stay calm while other people pushed and performed. It trained me to ask one clean question at a time. It trained me to write down dates. That is why people often misread me. They think quiet means soft. They think soft means easy to move. Owen has always thought that about me. When he first came into Lena's life, he was smooth and cheerful. He shook my hand and told me he respected family. He offered to carry boxes. He asked me about my work. He listened with the right face. I remember thinking he was eager. Maybe a little too eager, but I wanted to be fair. Lena looked happy at the time, and I did not want to be the kind of father who judges too fast. The change happened slowly. At first it was small corrections. Owen would finish Lena's sentences. He would answer questions that were asked to her. If I asked Lena how she was doing, Owen would say she was tired but fine. If I asked Lena about her job, Owen would say she was lucky to have flexible hours. He said these things like he was helping. When I tried to shift the conversation back to Lena, he would smile and act like I did not understand how married life worked. Then it became public. At a family dinner once, I mentioned a simple budgeting idea because Lena said money felt tight. Owen laughed and said my methods were old-fashioned. He said their generation did things differently. The room laughed with him. Not because it was funny, but because he sounded confident. Lena kept her eyes down. I remember feeling heat in my face, not from anger, but from being placed in a corner like a piece of outdated furniture. I tried to talk with Lena privately after that. I asked if she felt hurt at home. She said things were fine. She said Owen was under a lot of pressure. She said marriage was about teamwork. Her words sounded practiced. I did not say that to her. I just told her I was always available. I told her she did not have to carry everything alone. She hugged me, but her arms felt stiff. It was like she was hugging an idea of me, not the real person standing there. When Mia was born, I offered practical help. I took time off work, I brought meals, I did laundry, and cleaned the kitchen without being asked. At first, Owen thanked me in front of others. Then he started treating it like my role. He would text me short requests instead of asking. He would tell me a time, not ask if I was free. If I said I could not, he would respond like I had failed a duty. He never raised his voice. He did not need to. He used pressure, not volume. Nora joined in too. She would comment on how lucky Lena was to have such a capable husband. She would talk about how a strong home needs a strong man. She said it while looking at me, as if she was comparing. If I brought a small gift for the kids, she would say it was sweet, in the tone people use for a child handing over a drawing. If Owen brought a gift, she would announce it to the room like it was a major event. The message was always the same. Owen mattered. I was background. There were other moments that stuck with me. Once, at a school event for Mia, there was a sign-in sheet. I asked if I could sign as a family contact. Owen told me it was not necessary. He said the school only needed the parents. He said it with a polite smile, but he made sure I felt seen by the other parents standing nearby. Another time, Lena invited me to a small birthday dinner at their house. I arrived with a cake. Owen opened the door and told me they had already started without me because schedules were tight. Everyone was seated. I stood there with the cake and felt the room pause, like I was interrupting. I kept swallowing these moments because I did not want Lena to feel torn. I told myself I was choosing peace. I told myself the kids were small and needed stability. I told myself that Owen's confidence was just his style. But the truth is that I was getting trained little by little to accept less access and less respect. And Owen was getting trained little by little to believe he could push harder. That night in the hotel, I opened my notebook and wrote a short timeline from memory. I wrote dates of family events. I wrote dates of strange comments. I wrote the day Lena stopped calling me directly and started texting through Owen's number more often. I wrote the month Owen began to mention legal and financial things in casual conversation, like he was testing how much I knew. I did not write feelings. I wrote facts. Facts hold up better when people try to twist a story. Around midnight, my phone buzzed with messages from the family group chat. Owen wrote that I had taken the kids without permission and that I was making the hospital situation harder. Nora added that I was being selfish. A few of Owen's friends reacted with supportive comments. No one asked me why I left. No one asked if the kids were okay. The story was already being shaped, and it was being shaped against me. I stared at the screen for a long time before I replied. Then I typed one short message. I said the children were safe, fed, and asleep. I said I would speak through proper channels, and I would not argue in a chat. I did not add emotion. I did not defend my character. I knew that would be used against me. I put my phone face down on the desk and sat still. In the dark, I could hear cars moving on the highway. The steady sound helped me think. I looked at the envelope again, then put it away. I reminded myself of the surgeon's face in that corridor. I reminded myself of how he told me to keep my expression neutral. I understood why. Owen was not just controlling at home. He was controlling the room around him. And now, for the first time, I had reason to believe the control went far beyond manners and pride. I did not sleep much. I sat by the window and watched the parking lot lights. I made a list of phone calls I would make in the morning. Not emotional calls, not angry calls. The right calls. The kind that create a record. The kind that make it harder for someone to rewrite what happened. When the sun finally started to lift the sky from black to gray, I stood up, washed my face, and made myself a promise. I would not win this by shouting. I would win it by staying calm and placing facts where they belonged. The next morning, Mia woke up first. She sat up in bed and looked around the hotel room like she was checking if she was still safe. Noah woke a little later and asked for cereal. I used the small coffee machine to heat water and made simple food. I kept everything slow and normal. I did not rush them. I did not want them to feel my pressure. After breakfast, I told Mia we had to do a few errands. I told her we would keep the day quiet. She asked if we were going to the hospital. I told her not yet. I told her the best thing for her mom was for us to stay steady. She nodded, but I could see her trying to be brave in a way that was too old for her age. I checked my phone. There were more messages in the family chat. Owen wrote that he did not know where I was. He wrote that I was keeping the children from him. Nora wrote that a good grandfather would respect the parents. Some people reacted with short comments and little icons. No one asked how Lena was doing. No one asked if the children had slept. I did not reply in the chat. I sent Owen a private message instead. I told him the children were safe. I told him I would return to town for supplies. I told him I would keep the day calm and he could share any updates through a proper call. I kept it short. I did not argue. I wanted every line to look reasonable if someone else read it later. Before we left, I wrote down 3 things in my notebook. I wrote the time Dr. Patel pulled me aside. I wrote the names I had heard in the waiting room. I wrote the exact order of events. I have learned that memories get fuzzy when people talk over you. A notebook does not get fuzzy. Then I drove back toward Lena and Owen's house. I did not want to stay there. I only wanted basics for the kids, clothes, school items, comfort objects, anything that would help Mia and Noah feel grounded. I parked on the street instead of the driveway. I did not want to be boxed in. Owen was already outside when I stepped out of the car. He must have been watching for me. He stood near the garage with his phone in his hand. His face showed calm, but his shoulders were tight. He walked over and looked into the back seat. Mia sat up straighter. Noah stared at his shoes. Owen told me I had crossed a line. He told me I did not have permission to take the kids out of town. He told me he would not let me do it again. His voice was controlled, the way people sound when they want to look reasonable. I told him I understood he was stressed. I told him I was not here to fight. I told him I needed to pick up a few items for the children and then I would leave. Owen said the children had everything they needed at home. He said I was creating confusion. He said the kids should stay with him because he was the parent. I kept my eyes on his face. I watched the way he chose words. He spoke like he was building a record, not like he was speaking to family. That made me more careful. I told him the children needed their school bags and a few things they liked. I told him I would be quick. Owen stepped slightly to the side, but not enough to open the path. He told me I could not go inside. He told me Lena would not want me in the house right now. He said he was protecting her privacy. He said he did not know what stories I would tell if I saw the inside of the home. That was the first clear line for me. It was not about supplies, it was about control. He did not want me to see anything. He did not want me to touch anything. He did not want me to have proof of what normal life looked like in that house. I told him I would not enter. I told him I only needed items brought to the door. I named the items one by one. Mia's backpack, Mia's favorite sweater, Noah's small blanket, their toothbrushes, their basic medications. I spoke like I was reading a list in a store. Owen sighed and acted like I was being difficult. He told me I was behaving like a man who could not accept change. He told me I should think about how this would look to the hospital. He told me the staff would not trust someone who takes children without permission. I did not respond to the part about how it would look. I only repeated the list. I kept my tone even. That seemed to frustrate him more than any raised voice would have. He walked into the house and shut the door behind him. While I waited, I noticed a small camera over the front door. I had seen it before, but I looked at it differently now. I noted its angle. I noted where it would see me standing. I also noticed a neighbor across the street pulling out a trash bin and watching. People watch more than they admit. I made sure my posture was calm. I made sure I did not pace. I wanted anyone watching to see a quiet grandfather waiting for children's items, not a scene. Owen returned with a bag and set it on the porch like he was setting down something unpleasant. He told me that was enough. I looked in the bag quickly. Some things were missing. Mia's sweater was not there. Noah's blanket was not there. Owen had chosen what I could have. I asked for the missing items. Owen told me the kids did not need those. He told me I was spoiling them. He told me I was trying to win them with comfort items. He said I should not compete with him. I told him I was not competing. I told him I was keeping routines. I told him the blanket helped Noah sleep and the sweater helped Mia feel secure. Owen's face tightened. He stepped closer and told me I had no authority here. He said the word authority like it was the whole point. Mia opened the car door a little and called my name softly. That stopped me from saying more. I turned to her and told her it was okay. I told her to stay buckled. Owen saw her watching and his face changed. He stepped back and smoothed his jacket. He looked around like he remembered the street had eyes. He went inside again. When he came back, he carried Noah's blanket and Mia's sweater. He handed them to me without warmth. He told me this was the last favor he would do. He told me next time he would involve people who could enforce boundaries. I told him he was free to do what he felt he needed to do. I told him I would do the same, through the proper channels. I did not explain what I meant. I did not want a debate on the sidewalk. I put the items in the car and closed the door. Before I got in, I looked at Owen and asked one simple question. I asked how Lena was. Owen hesitated for half a second. Then he told me she was resting and the hospital was handling it. He did not give details. He did not even give a tone of concern. It sounded like a business update. As I drove away, I felt something settle in me. The situation was bigger than hurt feelings. Owen was not acting like a scared husband. He was acting like a manager guarding assets. I took Mia to school because routine mattered. I kept Noah with me. At the school office, I signed Mia in and kept my voice polite. The staff recognized me, but their eyes showed questions. I did not offer extra information. I only said there was a family emergency and I would pick Mia up later. The pickup lane in the afternoon was crowded. Parents sat in cars with windows down. Kids ran with backpacks and snacks. It was normal life in a narrow line, and that normal life made everything else feel strange. Owen appeared near the pickup area before Mia even came out. He walked with purpose, like he had planned the timing. He wore a friendly expression and greeted a few parents with small talk. Then he turned to my car. His smile stayed, but his eyes did not. He told me I was making people uncomfortable. He told me I was pulling the kids into adult issues. He told me I needed to hand the children back to him right now. He spoke loud enough that nearby people could hear without trying. I told him the children were staying with me for the moment. I told him I was following advice given at the hospital. I did not name anyone. I did not accuse him of anything. I kept my words clean. Owen's smile flickered. He told me I was confused. He told me I was not thinking clearly. He told me I was not young anymore and stress could make people act strangely. He said it in the same soft, careful way he used at the hospital. He wanted the crowd to see him as calm and me as unstable. Mia walked out then and froze when she saw both of us. Her eyes bounced between my face and Owen's face. Owen changed his expression fast. He knelt slightly and told Mia he missed her. He told her everything was fine. He told her to come to him. I opened my door and stepped out slowly. I told Mia she could come to me. I told her she did not need to choose sides. I told her she could hold my hand while she said hello. Mia came to me first. She held my hand tight. Owen's face tightened again, but he kept the smile for the public. He told me I was turning Mia against him. He told me I was using fear to control her. He said it as if he cared about her feelings. I looked at Owen and told him we would not argue in a school lane. I told him he could contact me later and we would speak calmly. Owen took out his phone and held it in front of him, angled down but visible. He did not say he was recording. He did not need to. The gesture was the message. He wanted me to feel watched. He wanted me to react so he could capture it. I did not react. I simply told Mia to get into the car. I told Noah to stay buckled. I nodded once at Owen and returned to the driver's seat. Owen stepped back, still smiling, still performing. But I saw his hands. They were tense at his sides, like he was holding anger in place. When we got back to the hotel, I gave the kids food and turned on a quiet cartoon for them. Then I sat at the desk and opened my notebook again. I wrote the time Owen confronted me at the house. I wrote what he refused to give me. I wrote the time he showed up at the school lane. I wrote that he held his phone in a way that suggested he wanted a reaction. I also looked at my calendar. The red circle I had seen the night before was still there. I knew my own habits. I circled dates in blue, not red. I do not use thick marker. This circle was thick. It was deliberate. It was not mine. I stared at it for a long time. Then I picked up my phone and made one careful call to an old friend, Eli Brooks. He is a lawyer, and he is not the kind who enjoys noise. He enjoys process. I told him my daughter was in the hospital. I told him I had concerns about the children's safety and about someone trying to control the situation through appearances. I told him I needed to know the correct steps, not shortcuts. Eli listened without interrupting. He told me to stay calm. He told me to keep notes. He told me to avoid arguments in public. He told me to let the system work, because the system respects clear records more than strong feelings. When I ended the call, I put the phone down and looked at the sleeping children. Mia's face was still tight, even in sleep. Noah clutched his blanket like it was a rope. I sat back in the chair and understood the next truth. Owen thought he could keep tightening his grip until I let go. He thought I would give up and disappear because that was easier. He did not understand me at all. The next day felt like a long hallway with many doors. Every door had a rule. Every rule had a form. Owen had spent years learning how to speak like the rules belonged to him. I had spent years learning how to read the rules when someone tried to bend them. I kept the children close. I kept the hotel room neat. I made small routines, breakfast at the same time, a short walk outside, quiet games at the table. I did not want Mia and Noah to feel like they were floating. Kids notice more than adults think. Mia watched my phone every time it lit up. Noah asked for his mom at random moments, like the question had its own clock. I told them the truth in simple pieces. I told them their mom was getting care. I told them we were staying in a calm place so she could rest. I told them I would answer questions when I could. I did not give promises I could not control. While they ate lunch, I opened my notebook again. I wrote down what mattered. Not feelings, not guesses. Times, places, names, and what was said. I also wrote down what I did, because that matters too. I wrote that I fed the children. I wrote that they slept. I wrote that they went to school or stayed home with me. I wrote that I did not block calls. I wanted a clean record that showed stable care. Owen called twice that morning. The first time I let it ring. The second time I answered because I did not want him to claim I was hiding. He told me I was making a mistake. He told me I was creating a problem that did not exist. He told me he had spoken with hospital staff and they did not agree with my choices. He told me he would come get the children if I did not bring them back. I told him the children were safe and calm. I told him I would not argue on the phone. I told him he could share any medical updates in a respectful way. I told him if he wanted changes, he could do it through proper steps. I kept my tone flat. Owen went quiet for a moment. Then he told me I was acting like a man with something to hide. He told me that if I loved Lena, I would support her husband instead of fighting him. He said he was trying to protect the family name. I told him I wanted the same thing as always. I wanted Lena safe. I wanted the children safe. I told him I would not move based on pressure. I told him to focus on Lena. Then I ended the call. My hands stayed steady, but my stomach felt tight. It was not fear of Owen as a person. It was fear of how easily people believe the confident voice in the room. After the call, I did something that felt boring but important. I wrote down the time and a short summary of what Owen said. Then I saved the call log. I also took screenshots of the group chat messages where they claimed I was doing something wrong. I did not share them, I just stored them, quietly. Later that afternoon, I drove to my bank branch. I picked a time when the lobby would be calm. I did not bring the children inside. I asked a neighbor from the hotel, a kind older woman who had chatted with Mia by the vending machines, to sit with them for 10 minutes. She agreed. She did not ask questions. She just nodded like she understood that life can change fast. Inside the bank, I asked to speak with someone senior. I kept my voice polite. I told the teller I had concerns about unauthorized requests and I wanted guidance on the correct process. The teller looked at me carefully, then asked me to wait. A banker came out and introduced herself. She brought me into a small office with a glass wall. She asked what I needed. I told her I was not trying to move anyone's money. I told her I wanted to prevent someone from using a medical crisis to push changes that were not appropriate. She listened and asked a few questions. She asked if I had legal authority. I told her I was not presenting anything today. I told her I was asking what steps existed and what could be documented. I watched her face as she pulled up notes on her screen. She told me there had been recent attempts to ask for information and to start updates to access. She did not show me forms. She did not print anything. She spoke in careful bank language. She told me the bank could not discuss details without the right process. She told me she could, however, make an internal note that I raised concerns, and she could direct future requests to a more formal review. I asked her one key question. I asked if those attempts were tied to the same day Lena was brought to the hospital. She did not confirm it directly. She only said the timing was close enough to be concerning. I thanked her. I told her I would return with proper guidance. I asked for her business card. She slid it across the desk. I took it and placed it in my notebook. I left the bank with the same calm pace I entered. Back at the hotel, Mia asked why I went into the bank. I told her grown-ups have to check on grown-up things sometimes. I told her she did nothing wrong. I told her the best thing she could do was eat her food and keep being kind to her brother. She nodded like she was trying hard to accept that. That evening, I called Eli again. I told him what the banker said. I told him I needed to act in a way that would be respected by institutions, not by family opinion. Eli told me I was doing the right thing by keeping the situation clean. He told me to avoid private confrontations. He told me to keep using formal paths. He also told me to contact the hospital patient advocate office. He said hospitals have systems for concerns, and those systems create records. He told me records matter. The next morning, I drove to the hospital with the children. I did not bring them inside. I parked near the main entrance and gave them snacks and tablets with headphones. I told them I would be back quickly. I told Mia to keep her seatbelt on and watch her brother. Mia did not like it, but she did it. Inside, I asked for the patient advocate. A staff member directed me to a quiet desk on an upper floor. The hallway there was less crowded. The lighting was softer. The air felt less urgent than the emergency entrance, but it still carried tension. A woman met me and introduced herself as Tessa Grady. She told me her role was to help patients and families understand processes. She asked what I needed. I told her my daughter was in care. I told her I had concerns about family pressure and about decisions being pushed while Lena was not able to speak freely. Tessa kept her face neutral. She asked if I was accusing anyone of wrongdoing. I told her I was not making loud claims. I told her I was asking how to ensure that consent, access, and decision-making stayed clean. I told her I wanted clarity and protection for my daughter and grandchildren. Tessa asked for Lena's basic information and confirmed my relationship. She told me the spouse usually has access, but access is not unlimited. She told me there are safeguards. She told me concerns can be noted and reviewed. She told me if a staff member had raised a red flag, the hospital would take that seriously. She did not mention Dr. Patel by name, and I did not either. I asked what would happen next. She told me she could request a formal review meeting with the right people. She told me this could include care team leadership and risk staff. She told me the meeting would focus on process and patient rights, not family arguments. That was exactly what I wanted. I thanked her and said I was willing to attend. I told her I would remain calm and respectful. She told me she would contact me with a time. She also told me, in a careful way, that I should keep the children away from conflict in the hospital. I told her I agreed. As I walked back to the car, my phone buzzed again. Owen had sent a message asking where I was and who I was talking to. He wrote that I was making the hospital staff uncomfortable. He wrote that he was the husband and I needed to stop acting like I was in charge. I did not reply right away. I got into the car first. I looked at Mia and Noah and asked if they were okay. Mia said she was bored and worried. Noah asked for juice. I gave him juice. Then I drove away from the hospital before I answered Owen. When I did respond, I kept it short. I told him I had asked the hospital for clarity on process. I told him I would not argue. I told him any concerns he had could be shared in a formal setting. I did not explain more than that. Owen called again. I did not answer. I did not want a loud back and forth. I wanted written messages and clean steps. I watched the phone ring and stop. Then I turned it face down and focused on the road. Back in my home office that night, I cleaned my desk the way I do when I need to think. I stacked papers. I labeled a folder with a neutral name. I backed up my phone data to a drive. I did not open the envelope again. I did not need to. I already knew where this was heading. Before bed, I checked my email. There was a message from the hospital. It was short and formal. It said a meeting had been scheduled and my attendance was requested. It listed a time and said key staff would be present. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark for a minute. Owen had wanted everything to stay in private rooms where he could control the story. Now the story was moving into a room with procedures, notes, and people who answered a policy. That was not a place where confidence alone wins. I went to check on the children. Mia was asleep with her sweater pulled close. Noah was curled around his blanket. I stood there and listened to the quiet, and I reminded myself of the goal. No scenes, no shouting, just steady steps taken in the right order. The day before the meeting, I kept everything small and quiet on purpose. I did not want to live inside Owen's noise. I wanted my mind clear. I wanted the children calm. I wanted my steps clean. Mia woke up asking if we were going to see her mom. I told her we were going to the hospital soon, but we had to follow the right steps. I told her the doctors were busy and we needed to be patient. Noah asked for pancakes. I made simple ones on the little hot plate in the hotel kitchenette. Mia helped stir the batter. She looked serious while she did it, like the task mattered more than breakfast. In a way, it did. It gave her something she could control. After they ate, I took them for a short walk outside. The air was cold and bright. Cars moved steady on the highway. Noah kicked at little stones on the sidewalk. Mia kept close to my side. She asked again why her dad was mad at me. I told her grown-ups sometimes get scared and they try to hold on too tight. I told her it was not her job to fix grown-up problems. I told her her job was to stay kind, stay honest, and stay near me. Back in the room, I packed a small bag for the kids in case the day ran long. Snacks, water, extra clothes, a book for Mia, and a small toy car for Noah. I wrote their names on everything with a marker. It was a habit from when Lena was little. A simple label can prevent confusion when people start pulling in different directions. Then I sat at the desk and checked my email again. The hospital meeting notice was still there. Time, location, names of departments, not details. It was formal, and that mattered. It meant this was moving out of private pressure and into a system that requires notes and follow-up. I called Eli in the morning. He told me to keep my language neutral. He told me not to accuse, not to perform, not to guess. He said I should stick to what I personally saw and heard. He said I should state concerns as concerns, not as insults. He reminded me that calm is not weakness. Calm is control. I drove to Eli's office while the kids stayed with a sitter service the hotel arranged. I did not like leaving them, but I needed 1 hour with my full attention. Eli's office was quiet. The walls were plain, the chairs were heavy and stable. It felt like a place built for decisions. Eli asked me to describe the hospital day from start to finish. I did it slowly. I said what Owen told me at the desk. I said how he spoke in the waiting room. I said how he tried to block me at the driveway. I said what happened in the school lane. I did not add dramatic words. I did not try to convince Eli with emotion. I gave him the shape of the pattern. Eli asked me what I wanted. The question was simple, but it made me pause. I told him I wanted Lena protected from pressure while she was vulnerable. I told him I wanted the children safe and stable. I told him I wanted decisions made in a clean way, not in a rushed way pushed by one person. I told him I wanted to stop Owen from turning the situation into a story where I looked unstable. Eli nodded. He told me there were lawful steps to do that. He told me some steps create records and some steps create boundaries. He told me to be ready for Owen to act friendly in public and sharp in private. He told me not to answer private sharpness with public noise. He told me to answer it with procedure. I left Eli's office with my shoulders lighter, not because the problem was gone, but because the path was clear. A path is a powerful thing when someone is trying to trap you in confusion. On the drive back, I stopped at a simple store and bought a few things the kids liked. Apples, crackers, juice. I also bought a cheap notebook for Mia and colored pencils. When life gets shaky, it helps children to put their thoughts somewhere, even if they only draw. Back at the hotel, Mia drew a picture of our family. She drew her mom in the center. She drew Noah holding my hand. She drew Owen off to the side, smaller than usual. She did not say why. She just handed me the page and watched my face. I told her it was a good drawing, and I put it on the desk where she could see it. That evening, Owen sent a long message. He wrote that he had spoken to the hospital and that I was making things worse. He wrote that I was confusing staff and stressing Lena. He wrote that if I cared about Lena, I would stop trying to control the situation. He wrote that he would handle things and I should step aside. I read it once, then again. The message was not about Lena, it was about control. It was also written like it was meant to be shown to someone else. Owen always wrote that way when he wanted an audience. I replied with 3 sentences. I told him I would not argue through messages. I told him I would attend the scheduled hospital meeting as requested. I told him the children were safe and resting. Then I stopped. Nora tried next. She called me. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was polite in tone but heavy in meaning. She said I was embarrassing the family. She said I should think about how I would look when people learned I took the children away. She said Owen was doing his best and I was making it harder. I did not answer. I wrote down the time and saved the message. Not because I wanted to punish Nora, but because I wanted the full picture of pressure. Pressure has a pattern. Patterns can be described clearly when someone later asks why you acted. That night, after the kids slept, I went to my home office for the first time in days. I needed familiar space. I needed my own desk, my own lamp, my own quiet. I opened the drawer where I keep blank folders. I took one and labeled it with a neutral name. Nothing emotional, nothing dramatic. Just a simple label that would not attract attention if someone glanced at it. I backed up my phone again. I printed nothing. I did not bring anything out into the open. I simply made sure I could access what I needed when the time came. I also set 2 reminders on my calendar for the meeting day. 1 reminder for leaving early. 1 reminder for picking up the children afterward. I did not want to be late. I did not want to look scattered. Owen would use any small mistake as proof of a bigger story. In the morning, I dressed in plain, clean clothes, nothing expensive, nothing sloppy. I looked like who I am, a quiet man who takes care of details. I picked the kids up and drove toward the hospital. I told them we were going to sit in the car for a while. I told them I might go inside alone. I told Mia she was the helper today. She nodded like a little soldier, serious and focused. We arrived early. I parked in the garage and chose a spot near the stairwell. I wanted a direct path, in and out. I checked the kids' seatbelts. I gave them snacks and water. I told Mia to keep the doors locked. I told her she could call my phone if she needed me. I did not want her to feel abandoned. I wanted her to feel prepared. Before I got out, I touched the folder in my bag and took 1 slow breath. I reminded myself of the rules I was following. Keep it clean, keep it calm, keep it lawful. Use systems, not anger. Speak like someone who expects to be taken seriously. Inside the hospital, the lighting made everything look pale. I walked past the front desk without stopping. I followed signs to the administration floor. My shoes sounded loud on the polished floor. People passed me with lanyards and tablets. No one looked at me twice. That was fine. I did not need attention. I needed access. I reached the area outside the boardroom. There were a few chairs along the wall and a small table with water cups. I sat down and waited. A staff member walked by and checked a list on a clipboard. She nodded at me like she recognized my name. A few minutes later, Owen arrived. He came with Nora and one man I did not recognize. Owen looked surprised to see me early. Then he recovered fast and smiled like we were all friends. He spoke in a low voice and told me we could still keep this private. He said we did not need to pull staff into family drama. He said we should talk like adults and end this. I looked at him and told him we would follow the process the hospital scheduled. I told him this was not a hallway conversation. I told him he could say what he needed to say in the meeting. Owen's smile tightened. Nora stared at me like she wanted to say something sharp, but she held it back because people were nearby. The door to the boardroom opened. A hospital staff member stepped out and asked us to come in. The tone was professional and firm. Owen straightened his shoulders and started to walk in like he owned the room. I let him go first. I did not rush. I did not compete for position. I walked in last, calm and steady, with my bag on my shoulder and my hands relaxed at my sides. The boardroom was colder than the hallway, not from the air, but from the tone. A long table sat under bright lights. A glass wall looked out onto the corridor. There were folders in front of several chairs and a laptop open near the far end. Tessa sat near the middle. Two people I had not met sat beside her. One introduced himself as hospital risk staff. The other introduced herself as nursing leadership. A security supervisor stood near the door with his hands folded. Dr. Patel entered last and took a seat slightly apart from the group, like he had already decided this was not a conversation for small talk. Owen sat across from me with Nora to his right. The unknown man Owen brought sat to his left, and I understood from the posture that he was there to look official. Owen kept his face calm, but I could see his attention flick to my bag, then back to my eyes. Tessa started the meeting by explaining why we were there. She said the hospital had concerns about process and patient rights during a critical medical event. She said this was not a family argument session. She said the goal was clarity, documentation, and immediate safety steps where needed. Owen nodded, as if he agreed with every word. He told the room he was grateful for the hospital and only wanted what was best for Lena. He told them I had created stress by taking the children and by questioning staff. He told them I was confused and emotional, and he said he was trying to keep peace. I waited until Tessa looked at me and asked for my perspective. I kept my hands flat on the table. I told them I would keep this simple. I told them I was Lena's father. I told them I came to the hospital because my daughter was in urgent care. I told them I had been blocked from basic updates and treated like I did not matter. I told them I left with the children because a member of the care team urged me to prioritize their safety and calm. Owen shifted in his seat. He told the room no doctor would say something like that. He told them I was exaggerating to gain sympathy. Tessa asked me if I had anything concrete to support my concerns. I said I did. I said I had been given an envelope by Dr. Patel in a private corridor because he felt he could not ignore what he observed. I said I did not want special treatment. I wanted proper review. I reached into my bag and placed the envelope on the table. I did not slide it toward Owen. I placed it in front of Tessa. I told her I was handing it to the hospital side first because that was the correct chain for process. Owen's face tightened for a moment. He tried to smile, but it looked forced. He told Tessa I was pulling props out to cause trouble. Tessa opened the envelope carefully and looked through the contents without reacting. She passed a page to the risk staff member, then another to nursing leadership. Dr. Patel watched them read. His jaw was set like he had already carried the weight of this for hours. The risk staff member asked me to describe what happened the day Lena arrived. I gave a timeline. I said I arrived, I asked for my daughter, and I was told the spouse had taken full control. I said I sat in the waiting room and heard statements about me being unnecessary and replaceable. I said I was not seeking drama. I was seeking information and stability for the children. Then Dr. Patel spoke. He said he had observed the spouse attempting to push additional paperwork during a window when the patient was not in a position to freely consider it. He said staff had felt pressured. He said there were repeated attempts to gain access beyond what was appropriate for the moment, including requests related to records and decision authority. He said this triggered internal safeguards. Owen leaned forward and told Dr. Patel he was misreading concern as pressure. He told the room he was the husband and he had a right to handle urgent matters. Nursing leadership responded with a calm, firm tone. She said being a spouse does not give permission to bypass patient rights or staff procedure. She said there are rules for consent, and those rules exist because medical crises can be exploited by anyone, including people who look stable in public. Tessa looked at Owen and asked him if he had attempted to introduce non-medical paperwork during Lena's treatment window. Owen said he had only brought standard documents that responsible families prepare. He said he was protecting Lena and the children. Tessa asked what those documents were. Owen looked toward the man beside him as if expecting support. The man spoke and described himself as someone who helps families organize planning. He said it was common to prepare updates to authority and access. The risk staff member asked for names and the timing of those attempts. He referenced internal timestamps and visitor access patterns. He did not show anything to Owen at first. He spoke in measured, official language. He said the hospital had records of multiple requests and movements that did not match what Owen had claimed in earlier conversations with staff. Owen's posture changed. He stopped smiling. He told the room they were making him sound suspicious when he had done nothing wrong. That was when I placed my notebook on the table. I told Tessa I had kept a timeline of my own, not because I wanted to play detective, but because I could feel the story being shaped against me. I told her I recorded dates of messages, public confrontations, and statements about me being unstable. I told her I could match my notes to the hospital's internal timeline. Tessa asked if I had also experienced pressure outside the hospital. I said yes. I described the driveway incident where Owen refused to let me enter and tried to control which items the children could have. I described the school pickup confrontation where he spoke loudly enough for others to hear, framing me as confused. I described the way he positioned his phone as if he wanted a reaction he could use later. Owen tried to interrupt and said I was twisting normal disagreements into a campaign. I stayed still and let him speak. Then I continued in the same calm tone. I told the room I had also visited my bank branch after learning Lena was in urgent care. I told them I did not go to move money. I went because I was worried someone might attempt to use a medical crisis to push access changes. I told them the banker said there had been recent attempts to request information and start updates. I told them the banker would not show me forms without process, but she confirmed the timing was close enough to raise concern. The risk staff member nodded once, as if that matched something he already knew. Then Eli's role became clear without him needing to sit in the room. Tessa stated that the hospital had been contacted through proper channels and that a formal review meeting was scheduled because of the pattern. She also stated that, separate from the hospital, a lawful family care process was now active for the children due to concerns raised and documented. Owen's eyes narrowed. He asked what she meant by active. Tessa told him the hospital had received notice that temporary care steps had been filed through the appropriate system and that the hospital would follow verified directions while the patient recovered and while the review continued. She said the hospital would not take sides emotionally, but it would follow validated procedure. Owen turned toward me and told me I had no right to move things behind his back. He told me I was trying to steal his children. I told him I was not stealing anyone. I told him I was keeping the children stable and protected while Lena could not fully advocate for herself. I told him I did not choose this meeting. The hospital scheduled it. I told him I did not create hospital records. His actions did. Dr. Patel added that he had never seen me raise my voice in the hospital. He said the tension came from repeated attempts to push staff and control access. He said he did not take this lightly. He said he would not have handed me anything if he did not believe the situation required an adult who would stay calm. The security supervisor spoke for the first time. He said the hospital was implementing immediate boundaries for the spouse's access pending the outcome of the review. He said this was standard when process concerns arise during a critical care window. He said staff safety and patient rights came first. Owen laughed once, sharp and short, then caught himself. He told them they could not do that to him. He told them he was family. The risk staff member told him the hospital could limit access when policy requires it. He told him this was not a punishment session, it was risk management. Tessa then stated the next steps in plain terms. She said there would be a formal note entered. She said contact would be structured. She said requests would be routed through designated staff. She said the hospital would not allow hallway pressure or side conversations to drive decisions. Owen tried one last time to regain the room. He told them I was an old man clinging to control. He told them he was the stable provider. He told them Lena would be angry when she learned what I had done. I did not answer with anger. I answered with one sentence. I told him Lena would have the space to speak for herself when she was ready, and until then, the systems that exist for protection would do their job. Tessa looked at the security supervisor and gave a small nod. The security supervisor stepped forward and asked Owen to hand over his visitor badge. His voice was quiet, but it carried authority. Owen froze for a moment. Nora started to speak, but nursing leadership raised a hand and told her to stop. The room went very still. Owen stood up too fast, his chair scraping the floor. He held the badge in his fingers like it was an insult, then placed it on the table with a hard tap. The security supervisor picked it up without reacting and moved toward the door. Owen looked at me one last time, eyes tight, like he was trying to promise consequences without saying them out loud. I did not give him anything back. I simply watched him leave the room under hospital escort, while the people at the table turned their attention to the next formal step,